Hello children, welcome to the digital class. Children, we are all very proud of being the citizens of India, are we not? And we are all enjoying the fruits of independence. But behind this enjoyment of independence, there is a struggle and sacrifice of lot of people. And regarding that, we have learnt in our national movement phase 1, that is our lesson 11A. So, do you remember that lesson, children? So, shall we have a quick recapitulation of what we learnt in our lesson 11A? Let's see. In our lesson 11A, we learnt about the introduction and influence of English language. Then we learnt about formation of Indian National Congress, that is INC. Apart from that, we learnt about objectives of the formation of INC, that is Indian National Congress. And then we learnt about Swadeshi movement, the First World War, that is from 1914 to 1919. And then we also learnt about partition of Bengal. The lesson 11A ended with the arrival of Gandhiji to India from South Africa. So, this is all about 11A. Today, we are going to learn about 11B, that is national movement. Be able to explain about Gandhiji's efforts in knowing about the problems that was prevailing in the country. You will be able to locate the important historical places of national movement in the map of India. You will also be able to follow Gandhiji's ways of Satyagraha and non-violence in solving the problems of present times. And finally, you will be able to write down the timeline chart showing the various important incidents related to the national movement. Now children, let us begin our lesson with the arrival of Gandhiji to India. Gandhiji arrived India in the year 1915 from South Africa. By the time he came to India, he was already a very famous and internationally respected leader. Why? Because he has led a non-violent struggle against racist restrictions in South Africa. And while doing so, he has come across many people, many Indian people in fact, who were already residing in South Africa, that is Hindus, Muslims, Christians, Parsis, people from South India, North India, merchants, lawyers and workers. So, by the time Gandhiji came to India, he spent his first year traveling throughout the country, and he tried to understand the problems of the people, their needs and the overall situation of the country. After learning about the situations that was prevailing in the country, he started leading the local movements. The first local movement in which he participated was Kheda Satyagraha and Champaran Satyagraha of 1918. Where he has led the peasant struggle against unfair terms and excessive taxes which was imposed on them by the government. He has also led a successful mill worker strike in Ahmedabad in year 1918. His participation in these local movements he has come across some national leaders like Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel and Dr. Rajendra Prasad, who has become his lifetime associates. They have become a very good friends. Now children, let us learn about the movements that has taken place in between 1919 and 1922. Gandhiji has never wanted to be a part of Congress. He wanted to have his own separate political ways of solving the problems. As a part of a local movement, as I told earlier, he participated in Champaran campaign in the year 1917, Khera protest movement in 1918 and Ahmedabad textile workers in 1918. And because of his participation in all these local movements, he has become a nationally known leader and even a center of the political activism. In 1919, Gandhiji gave a call for a Satyagraha against Roulette Act, which was passed by British government. So according to Roulette Act, a person is not allowed to express his views and ideas. And if any person is found doing so, he will be arrested and imprisoned without trial. While getting tried also, there will be no evidence against him or her. So some national leaders like Mahatma Gandhi and Muhammad Ali Jinnah was totally against this act of Britishers. They said that no one is having a right to restrict any person from expressing his or her views. They called this particular act of Britishers as devilish and tyrannical. And as a protest against this Roulette Act, Gandhiji asked Indian people to observe 6th April 1919 as a day of non-violent opposition of this act. Even he declared this particular day as a day of humiliation and prayer and hartal. Hartal is a Hindi word of strike. Satyagraha Sabhas were set up to launch the movement, and these Roulette Satyagraha was the first all India struggle against the British government, but it was largely restricted to cities. In April 1919, there were number of demonstrations and hartals in country, and the government used brutal measures to suppress them. And one among such brutal measure is the Jallianwala Bagh. It took place on 13th April 1919 when acting Brigadier General Reginald O'Dwyer ordered troops of British Indian Army to fire their rifles into a crowd of unarmed Indian civilians in Jallianwala Bagh, Amritsar in the state of Punjab, killing at least 500 innocent people and injuring 1500 people. The famous poet Rabindranath Tagore was so disheartened that he gave up his knighthood, which was rewarded to him by Britishers. During Roulette Satyagraha, the participants tried to ensure that Hindus and Muslims were united in the fight against the British rule. This was also the call of Mahatma Gandhi, who always saw India as a land of all the people who lived in the country, that is Hindus, Muslims and those of other religion. He was keen that Hindus and Muslims support each other in any cause. Indian nationalists strove for building unity of all people of India. They also wanted the reformation of Indian society, and they wanted to establish democratic form of government and self-rule for India. So along with Roulette Act, children, there were many other agitations that have taken place. So the next agitation is the Khilafat agitation and the non-cooperation movement. In Khilafat agitation, the Britishers imposed a harsh treaty on the Turkish Sultan or Khalifa. This has made people as furious as they were during Jallianwala Bagh massacre. Indian Muslims wanted Khalifa to control the Muslim sacred places in Ottoman Empire. As a protest against this Khilafat agitation, two brothers, that is Muhammad Ali and Shaukat Ali, wished to initiate a full-fledged non-cooperation movement. Gandhiji also supported their call and urged the Congress to campaign against Punjab wrongs, that is Jallianwala Bagh massacre, and the Khilafat wrong and demand for Purna Swaraj. In the Nagpur session in the year 1920, Gandhiji was acknowledged as the leader of the Congress, and the main objectives of this session was the achievement of Swarajya by all legitimate means and non-cooperation movement as a means for Swaraj. Thousands of students left the government controlled schools and colleges. Many lawyers such as Motilal Nehru, Chittaranjan Das, that is C.R. Das, C. Rajagopalachari and Asif Ali gave up their practice. British titles were surrendered and legislatures were boycotted. People lit public bonfires of foreign cloth. The import of foreign cloth fell drastically between 1920 and 1922. To this, Gandhi added a campaign for people to spin their own cotton on a charkha, and this cloth is known as khadi. These spread the desire in every house to make the country self-reliant. But all this was merely the tip of the iceberg. Large parts of the country were on the brink of a formidable revolt. For example, let us see what has happened in Andhra region. Guntur district in Andhra Pradesh was at the center of nationalist activity, and the participants was widespread, including not only students but also merchants and peasants in the villages. A highlight of the non-cooperation movement was the famous Chirala Perala movement. A highlight of the non-cooperation movement was the famous Chirala Perala movement. The government decided to convert this town into a municipality and forced high taxes. About 15,000 people under the leadership of Duggirala Gopalakrishnaya refused to pay the taxes, and they migrated to Ramnagar for 11 months. There was a powerful movement of non-payment of land revenue by the peasants and mass resignations of village officers. People said, Gandhiji Swaraj is coming and we will not pay taxes to the government. Another major development was the forest Satyagraha in Andhra Pradesh, Palnati Taluka of Guntur district and in Raichoti Taluka of Kadapa districts. Peasants began sending herds of cattle into the forest without paying grazing fees to the forest department. In many villages of Palnadu, people declared Gandhi Raj and attacked police parties. People were convinced that the colonial rule was coming to an end and the forest would be back in the control of the village people. In two talukas of forest administration had to virtually close down during the agitation period. We can see from the above activities that sometimes people thought of Mahatma Gandhi as someone who could help them overcome their misery and poverty. Gandhi wished to build class unity and not class conflict. Yet peasants could imagine that he would help them in their fight against zamindars. Agricultural laborers believed that he would help them to get their lands. At times, ordinary people gave credit about their own achievements to Gandhiji. For instance, the end of powerful movement, peasants of Pratapgarh in United Province, at present it is known as Uttar Pradesh, managed to stop illegal eviction of tenants. But they felt it was Gandhi who had won this demand for them. At other times, using Mahatma Gandhi's name, tribals and peasants undertook actions that did not confirm the Gandhian principles. All these activities have affected the basic principle of national movements, and this has led to a lot of happenings that has taken place in 1922 to 1929. Among this happening was the famous Chauri Chaura incident. In Chauri Chaura, the peasants were doing a peaceful demonstration and police started firing on them. This provoked farmers so much that they has put the police station on a fire. After listening about this incident, Gandhiji was so much disheartened that he called off the non-cooperation movement. Once the non-cooperation movement was over, his followers stressed that the Congress must undertake some constructive work in rural areas. Other leaders such as C.R. Das and Motilal Nehru argued that the party should fight elections to the council and enter them in order to influence government policies. Through sincere social work in villages in mid-1920s, the Gandhians were able to expand their support base. This proved to be very much useful in launching the civil disobedience movement in 1930. The two important organizations that was developed during this period was Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. The two important organizations that was developed during this period was Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh RSS and Communist Party of India, that is CPI. These organizations had very different ideas about the kind of country India should be. And even during this period, the revolutionary nationalist Bhagat Singh has also become very active. So, children, that is all for our today's session. The remaining part of our lesson will be carried forward in our part 2. I hope till here it is very much clear to you. So, shall we have a quick recapitulation of our today's session? Let's see, children. Your first question is, write about the initiation that was taken by Gandhiji in understanding the people and their problems after arriving India. I told you he went around for a year throughout the country understanding the problems, and even he participated in some local movements. So, you can take the reference of that and you can write this answer. Your second question is writing about the timeline chart showing the incidents that took place in between 1990 and 1920. So, you can write about Champaran Satyagraha, you can write about Kheda movement, then you can write about Ahmedabad mill worker strike, Roulette Act, Jallianwala Bagh massacre, Khilafat agitation, and finally the non-cooperation movement and the call off of the non-cooperation movement. Your next question, are the principles of Gandhiji of Satyagraha and non-violence are applicable in present times? As I told you in the beginning of the lesson, we are all enjoying the fruits of independence. We are all living in an independent India. So, in the present times, do we need to follow the principles of Gandhiji while solving any problems? You can take the reference of any incident you have come across, and you can also write about how can it be helpful in solving the problems. And finally, please take one India map, and on that India map you try to locate the places. These all places are having the historical importance which is related to the national movement. First one is Amritsar. Amritsar is a place where Jallianwala Bagh massacre has taken place. Then Ahmedabad, I told you Ahmedabad mill workers strike where Gandhiji has helped the mill workers in getting their rights. Then it is Guntur. Yes, it is about the forest movement which has taken place in Guntur. And finally, Uttar Pradesh, a place where eviction of the illegal tenants was stopped. You can locate that in the map of India. So children, these are some of the questions. You can even complete the questions which is given in your textbook as well. So please note down the questions. I hope everyone has copied the question. Please complete the answer. You can take the help of the textbook while completing these answers. You can even ask your teacher if you are getting confused anywhere, and please complete the notes. For better understanding of the concepts, please refer to the worksheets which is published by SIET. You can procure these worksheets from the official website of SIET. So children, this is just a part 1. That is, this is only a half lesson. The remaining part of the lesson we will be completing very soon. In the meantime, you complete the assignment given to you, even complete the worksheets of SIET, and keep reading the book and be prepared for our next class. So here I take your leave. Thank you.
క్వాంటమ్ టెక్నాలజీస్ ఎక్స్పోజర్ ట్రైనింగ్. క్వాంటమ్ టెక్నాలజీ శీఘ్రగతిన అభివృద్ధి చెందుతూ కంప్యూటర్ రంగంలో విప్లవాత్మక మార్పులకు కారణమవుతున్న ప్రస్తుత